Well guys, welcome to another Wayne Ice Photos video, and today's video is about outliers and outliers that someone, for example, Hambini would see. And the argument is that Hambini only gets bikes that people have had an issue with and they send them to him, and because they've got a problem, they're an outlier. They don't represent the bulk of bikes that come from that manufacturer. Well, I want to challenge that view because I see that in the comments all the time, especially on Hambini videos, even on my videos, and I want to debunk that type of thinking. So let's roll the intro and let's get into the video. Now, the argument is that Hambini, the high percentage of bikes that he gets are from people who've gone to bike shops, they've contacted the manufacturer, they haven't had any joy, so then they take it to Hambini to have a look at, and he may write a report that helps them get some satisfaction. And he even says that, he says he does a lot of insurance work or work where they're determining what was the problem with the bike. Now, that argument on the face of it seems a reasonable and logical argument to put forward. And when he gets bikes that are anonymously bought, like the Windspace bike he just did recently, then it all looks above board. So people get this vision of saying, hey, yeah, look, we like what Hambini's doing, that's great, but it's a bit biased because of the outlier argument. Well, my argument is that that's not a realistic argument, because if we take that outlier argument and we apply it to other items that we buy, then we're saying that all items that we purchase, someone's going to get a below standard item, one that is outside of the distribution curve of the specifications that have been set by that manufacturer. So for argument, you say, hey, look, you know, that Boeing or Airbus, you know, had a crash because one of the engines fell off, and that was an outlier. Or we have a car and the brakes just failed and the car was only 3 months old and the drivers were killed. Or we have a bike and the frame breaks and the person incurs some injuries. And we can even have that with all sorts of products we buy. Now, the reason why that argument can be debunked is because the manufacturers have complete control over the quality control, and they set the variance that we have with that product. So if you go and fly on an aircraft, obviously companies like Airbus and Boeing have a very high level of quality control, and the regulations and rules associated with the aviation industry are much more stringent. You can't hack things. You can't just go, oh, look, I'll modify this and I'll just put this piece of equipment in. The equipment has to be replaced part for part and has to be of the same type and model and everything. You can't just go, hey, look, we'll grab that one off that other aeroplane. It's a slightly different model, but it should work. It's just completely banned. The checking systems associated with equipment are very, very secure. Everything needs to be double checked, and usually the people that do that have a little stamp, and they have to stamp that they've checked that, and that's all above board and has been installed as per the procedures, and all of the procedures are documented, and the people work from the procedures. They're like a book that you open up and you go step by step how you will fit that product, how it needs to be adjusted or set when it's put into the aircraft. So that control and that level of control, because the aviation industry has to have a very high level of safety, the quality control is very high. Now, that is 100% a decision by the manufacturer. Now, obviously, the aircraft industry, if they had planes falling out of the sky, confidence in people flying would drop, and also the manufacturers would lose sales of their aircraft. They'd go and buy some other brand. So that's why there's this very high level, and also it's regulated. So when we come to bikes, bikes obviously doesn't have the same impact. They're going a lot slower speeds. If you fall off a bicycle, your chance of dying is very low unless there's another vehicle involved that you hit. then the bicycle itself, just riding along and failing, the risk of having a serious accident is low. So the regulation and overview of bicycles is not as stringent as it is with aircraft, but the manufacturer still has the ability to make a decision to set its quality control. Now, if you have a bell curve that's set like this, and you're saying we are going to allow this much variance, but the aircraft industry is allowing this much variance, the bicycles are still setting their variance of their total product, which is Six Sigma. Now, when we have those specifications, that quality control that is set, then they say, hey, look, we're only going to have a very, very small percentage outside, and everything should be checked to make sure. And any of those ones that are outside that bell curve should be picked up because it's a very low percentage. Now, we also do have legislation on the other side that if someone did have a failure of a bicycle and they didn't repair it or didn't do anything, and the person was involved with a serious accident which could be lethal, then that manufacturer could be taken to court for negligence because they had an opportunity to fix it. They let the bike out the factory, so forth and so forth. So my counter argument to the outlier argument is that they shouldn't have left the factory in the first place because the manufacturer has total control over that. They have total control over the quality control of their product, right? Now, what it comes down to is how much the company wants to invest in quality control, because it's like everything, like safety, like quality, whatever. It doesn't come freely. The company has to invest money into it to ensure that that quality is maintained. And that's why we have things like quality assurance systems that you can sign up for and be audited for, and the auditors come in and make sure that you're following your procedures that you've written, and you have procedures, and all of those procedures are being checked. They take a sample and they check, and then you get endorsed. In Australia, we have 9001, which is like the 4 ticks, but in England and other parts of the world, they have different standards. So you can sign up for that and you get checked. So quality control is not an accident. It's not like, hey, look, we just make really good stuff, but on the Friday or Monday, it's an outlier. Those things are totally controlled by the company, and even if someone does have a Friday day, then they should be checked, quality controlled, and as we know with Leisure Technique Rail there, they can be scanned if you want to put that. Canyon used to state that they used to do a scan on every bike. Now, I don't know if they're still doing that, but that is one thing you can put in place as a manufacturer to pick up any excessive voids that are in the bike frame. Okay, guys, well, that's where I'm going to leave this video. Leave your comments down below. What do you think about these outliers? Do you think that that's a reasonable argument when you put it towards someone like Hambini, or do you think that, hey, look, that's not a reasonable argument? No one should get an outlier. They're paying the same money as everyone else, and those sorts of things should be weeded out of the industry. Industry should lift its game. It should lift its quality control. So just let me know what you think down below, and remember to subscribe and give us the big like. Really helps out the channel, and we can get that community expanded and bigger, and hopefully those people that are not buying into the marketing can have their eyes opened. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I will see you next vid.